So friends, did you see that Donald Trump just tried to lowball the New York courts? He's supposed to put up $450 million in either cash or in a bond to appeal the loss in his New York fraud trial, but he told the courts, no, I'll put up a bond in the amount of $100 million. I mean, does Donald Trump think the New York courts have a fraud forgiveness program? Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, at long last, Donald Trump has been forced to admit in a court filing that he's not nearly as rich as he has always said he is. Let's talk about that, but if you'll indulge me, 30 seconds of housekeeping. As you may know, here at Justice Matters, we are an all-volunteer outfit, posting a legal analysis video every day, 7 days a week, and we couldn't do it without your support. So if you're interested in more formally supporting our all-volunteer efforts, our mission, our content, please feel free to come over to patreon.com. You can sign up to become a patron, and if you do, I'll send you some Team Justice and Justice Matters stickers and a personal handwritten note of thanks and thank you to all of you who have come over to patreon.com and are supporting our work here at Justice Matters. Now let's dig into a really juicy story. At long last, Donald Trump has had to admit in a court filing he is not all that rich, and he's certainly not all that liquid. Why? Well, because it's put up or shut up time for Donald Trump. He lost a massive civil fraud judgment in the case in New York presided over by Judge Engoron. He was ordered to pay upwards of $455 million. And if he wants to appeal that ruling, he needs to either deposit money into the court, into an escrow account, to make sure there's a pot of money for that judgment to be collected at the end of the day after the appeal runs its course. He has to either put up about $550 million in cash into that court escrow account, about 120% of the judgment to cover the interest that will accrue during the period of the appeal, or he has to get a bond. Somebody has to swoop in and guarantee that he'll make good on that money judgment if he loses his appeal. And the problem is, he doesn't have that kind of cash, even though he always brags that he does. He can't even get anybody to give him a bond in the full amount of the $550 million. So what did Donald Trump just do? Recognizing the law and the procedures in New York require that he either put up the full amount plus interest in cash into the court's escrow account, or that he get a bond for the full amount. No. He said, here's what I'm going to do, New York courts. I'm going to put up a bond in the amount of just $100 million. And I expect you to do me a solid. You know, again, I don't know if he thinks the New York court system has a fraud forgiveness program and they're going to accept that. They wouldn't accept it from any other litigant. Any other litigant would have to, follow the rules and the law. But it's clear that Donald Trump has never believed the rules or the law apply to him the way they apply to the rest of us. This is Donald Trump sort of treating the New York courts the way he would treat the workers with whom he would contract to do work at his properties. He would contract for a certain amount, and at the end of the job, he would say, I'll pay you 25 cents on the dollar that I owe you. And if you don't like it, I'll sue you into oblivion. How many stories have we heard of Donald Trump treating workers that way, driving people out of business as a result of his refusal to pay them what he had contracted to pay them? Now he thinks he can treat the courts that way, and he thinks the courts will respond favorably. You know, friends, at this point, Donald Trump has one of three options. Pay the full amount in cash into the court's escrow account and take your appeal, or post a bond for the full amount so that there's a guarantee that the full amount will be paid out when and if you lose the appeal, or three, do neither of those two things and let New York Attorney General Leticia James begin to collect on that money judgment by seizing your properties and selling them off to satisfy the judgment, the money that you defrauded people and institutions out of. Those are your only three options. I wanted to set all that up first, friends. Now I want to turn to the new reporting, this from the New York Times. Headline, Trump says he might have to sell properties to pay the $454 million penalty. The ex-president, who is appealing the penalty in his civil fraud case, offered a bond of only $100 million to pause the judgment. And that article begins, Donald Trump offered a New York appeals court on Wednesday a bond of only $100 million to pause the more than $450 million judgment he faces in his civil fraud case, saying that he might need to sell some of his properties unless he gets relief. It was a stunning acknowledgement that Mr. Trump, who is racing the clock to either secure a bond from a company or produce the full amount himself, lacks the resources to do so. Without a bond, the New York Attorney General's office, which brought the fraud case, could seek to collect from Mr. Trump at any moment. Mr. Trump's lawyers also asked the court to delay a wide range of other punishments the judge in the fraud case levied in his decision earlier this month. They include a prohibition on obtaining a loan from a New York bank for 3 years and a ban on running a company in the state during that same period. Now, friends, Donald Trump just filed an emergency appeal with one appellate court judge in New York. Here's the reporting on that. One appellate court judge was hearing the request from Mr. Trump on Wednesday afternoon and was expected to issue a decision shortly after. If the judge were to grant the pause, it would only be temporary. Mr. Trump would still have to persuade a larger panel of appellate judges to keep the judgment on hold. You know, friends, just imagine for a minute that after you lost a trial and a judge ordered you to pay, let's say, $1 million for the money you defrauded others out of. But you told the judge, you told the courts, no, I'm not going to put up $1 million to secure my right to file an appeal. I'll put up $250,000, but I don't want to sell off any of my properties, right? Any of my valuable assets to put up the whole $1 million. No, instead, I want you, judges, I want you, court system, to reduce the amount I have to put up to $250,000. That's what I'm willing to do. Well, guess what? The court system doesn't work that way, Donald. And friends, there's something else that really bugs me about all this. We already know, courtesy of Trump's own admissions in this new court filing, he's not nearly as rich as he has always claimed to be. But here's the thing, he can't even get a bond in the full amount. And if his properties were worth billions of dollars, as he's always bragging and puffing and bloviating they are worth billions of dollars, do you know how easy it would be for him to get a bond? Because a bondsman or an insurance company would say, of course we'll put up the bond. All you have to do is pledge your property to us as collateral, right? You have $1 billion property. You say you have lots of $1 billion properties. You pledge that to us as collateral, and if you lose the appeal, we get the $1 billion property. Easy peasy, right? Donald Trump doesn't have that kind of equity. I believe that's what this suggests. He doesn't have that kind of equity in his properties, even if any of the properties are worth $1 billion, which they're probably not. Because if he did have $1 billion of equity in a property, he would just use that as collateral, secure a bond, and he'd be off to the appellate races. Everything would be fine. But you have to suspect that his properties are probably so encumbered by debt, by mortgages. Heck, he may be in the red, not in the black. He may owe more money than he actually has. That's likely why he can't get a bond for the full amount. So all he could put up was a bond for $100 million. And remember, folks, he couldn't even put up $100 million in cash. He had to put up a bond. Friends, you know how water circles a drain? And you know how when the water level goes down, the water starts to circle faster and faster? Man, Donald Trump is circling the drain financially. And I have a feeling it's more than just his financial circumstances that are going to get swept down that drain. You know, I think this is going to begin to infect everything. His criminal cases, his other pending civil cases. I mean, he's lost case after case after case. And he's about to be criminally prosecuted in case after case after case. This is going to infect everything. You know, and maybe his own supporters, maybe his own base will wise up and will realize that when Donald Trump files a court pleading exposing the fact that he doesn't have the money he has always claimed to have, exposing him as a fraud of a businessman, right? Maybe they'll wise up. Maybe they'll stop standing behind him and supporting him and sending him their hard-earned money, $5, $10. Stop buying his bobbleheads and his perfume and his sneakers and his tchotchkes. Just stop. Just stop. You know, place your bet on a winning politician, not on somebody who is circling the drain and who is about to be swept out to sea. So friends, we'll keep on top of this story. We'll probably revisit it in tomorrow's Justice Matters video, because by then we'll know what the one judge who is hearing Trump's emergency appeal, you know, in his desperate attempt to stop Tish James from seizing his properties, from putting liens on his properties, from garnishing his wages if he has any, from doing everything she can do in accordance with New York state law to satisfy that money judgment that's been entered against Donald Trump. We'll see where things stand tomorrow and in the coming days, but boy, it feels like it's becoming clearer every day that Donald Trump is done. And that's a good thing, because justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.